Rodney, it's your turn to act. What do you want to do to take down this goblin?
Alright, Marcus, what do you think I should do? I was thinking I'd climb the rock and shoot the goblin from the high ground. Well, I disagree. I think you should charge in head first with your sword of venom and slay that foul beast. Yeah, but there's a chance the creature surprises me and slashes me with his rusty cleaver under my heavy plate armor. Sure, you can take a hit or two, but I'm just the lonely wizard. I could perish in one strike. We must be careful of his +1 arrows, though. His ranged attacks could rain down hellfire upon us. My character would never charge in like a big old dingus. I think I forgot to lock my door when I came over.
You wanted some casting crunch?
Maybe you should run in and try a Thunder Wave. So why did you go with a half-elf? A pure-blooded elf is way cooler. I enjoy the charisma bonus, even though in real life I talk to no one. Haha! I also don't engage in other human activity.
Oh no!
Welcome to Dice Chatter. Let's look at why I like to use an hourglass in my D&D games, and maybe I can convince you to give it a try. So as you saw in the previous clip, I had lost my players. They began discussing some tactics and strategy to have a successful combat encounter, but time was wasting away. Now I don't have an issue with discussing strategy during combat, but when you want your party to hit a certain goal by the end of the session, wasting time on combat can be quite frustrating. As a way to speed things up, I use a trusty hourglass. The idea behind giving the players a time limit to complete their actions will speed up combat and hopefully create a more engaged group. If you give someone a specific allotted time that they have to be prepared, this means they will have to learn what their character is capable of before they take their turn. Now, if you use this time limit tactic for all the players at the table, combat will be smooth and concise. Now, I don't give my players a time limit of 10 seconds. I want them to be able to strategize with the other players at the table, but I also don't want to give each player 5 minutes, because then it kind of defeats the purpose. I generally give my players a couple minutes to discuss and play out their actions at the table. But the real question is, what happens if they haven't decided on an action when the last speck of sand hits the bottom of the hourglass? The simple solution to this is that they lose their turn and combat moves on to the next person or enemy. This option may not be for everyone though, so be a little cautious. Another interesting thing to do when the timer ends during combat is add a new factor into the battle. For example, your players are ambushed by some goblins when they were resting in the wilderness at night. Combat has been going smooth until a couple of your players have taken way too much time deciding what spell to cast. Now you had no intentions having an ogre join the ranks of the goblin ambush, but maybe as a slight punishment, you make combat a little bit more terrifying. Now this example can also be a dangerous one. You don't want to have a total party wipe because one of your players took a little too long to decide what to do. Be a firm and just dungeon master, not a terrible one. Now I also want to stress that not every combat encounter my players have, I introduce the hourglass. I generally keep it for quick warm-up fights, or if the combat we are having is going way longer than expected. And if the players are fighting the big bag evil guy of the campaign, they can take all the time they want, because they are going to need it. Now combat isn't the only place where I implement an hourglass. I also use it during a chase. With this, I generally use a longer time limit, anything around 5 to 10 minutes. I want the players to feel rushed, but not unfair that they cannot necessarily decide what to do with the time that is given to them. For example, your players have entered a dungeon full of twists and turns until they come along a long hallway that descends down at 10 degrees or so. That is when the half-orc fighter manages to trigger a trap, and the classic Indiana Jones boulder sequence begins. Take this opportunity to use that hourglass and have the players at the table begin a free-form initiative, telling you how they attempt to escape this trap. This idea also works when the party needs to catch a person of interest while galloping away on a horse, or running through the alleyways of a busy city. I would also advise in this case putting the hourglass in front of the players so that they have a basic idea on when the chase may end. I hope this advice about using an hourglass in your game has been helpful, and I would love to hear about other situations you may use time restraints on your players. I would advise not making the hourglass a must-have item for every action your players have at the table, mainly because this can give a sense of urgency to everything in your game. You want your players to have fun and enjoy the time at the table, not feel like at every moment they are being rushed. I want to thank you all for watching, and of course, happy gaming.